Hello again, and today is Wednesday, and today we are going to have Efka Heder from SEECEL, who I was very pleased to know during a project that we ran together. Hi Efka, how are you doing?
Hi, Olesea. Hi, Moldova. Hi, the world. Actually, hi, all the friends of women entrepreneurship and true believers in entrepreneurship education.
Nice having you here, Efka, and thank you for accepting my invitation to discuss about women entrepreneurs. And how is Croatia? Is it warm outside or I don't know? Because we've had bad weather during the last week, so
Yeah,
we are praying
here the same. You
everywhere.
know what we are saying in the world of entrepreneurship all over, that we are now approaching to the uncertain time. I think now we have the same thing with the weather, starting with a very hot like a summer, then again the next day popping up into the winter, then the next day. So we are just like reshuffling from summer, spring, winter in 1 week. But
But
now
you're
today
right.
it's sunny. So hello from Zagreb.
But you're right, and I would like to um, stress on that. What you have mentioned is very important because right now it's very chaotic. It's very unpredictable because technology disrupts everything. Technology disrupts the way the mindset is developed around entrepreneurship. And it's the same as with the weather. People don't know what to expect and people get afraid.
Yeah.
People cannot adjust soon enough. And in this context, we have met several years ago in 2014 discussing women entrepreneurship. How can women that are believed to be more risk adverse, they can adjust to this ever-changing climate of entrepreneurship and growing their businesses globally?
Yeah, so first question is because there are a lot of people who do not trust in women entrepreneurship as a separate item to be supported within the legal frameworks and incentives to be given. Why? The first question is why women entrepreneurship need to be supported. First of all, if we're talking about more than 51% of the overall world population, and if we take into account the participation rate of women entrepreneurship in the global scale of entrepreneurs all over the world, we can see that there is a discrepancy. So something needs to be done related to this issue. The second thing is that the studies are showing that especially in uncertain time, that the ratio of survival of women-owned businesses is bigger. That the women are those who are, when they're creating their businesses, their study businesses, they grow is slower, but when they are growing, it's a steady growth. So when they decide and when they feel the opportunity and see the opportunity to grow, they are going and they're growing in stable terms of growing. And the third thing is that we need to take into account, which we are all facing with the problem of scarce money and big risk of the returns of the loans. The survey shows that the women entrepreneurs who take a loan as investment for growing their businesses, the return rate of the loans of women entrepreneurs is almost 100%, which is very important issue related to the several things. First of all, stability of our government and the cash flow, or all kind of investment and the money flow. The second thing, stability in the supply and value chains. The third thing, stability of the job places or employment places, because uncertainty can sound very interesting, very fashionable, but at the end of the day, if uncertainty have the long duration, it is the big consequence for the societies and stabilities of the societies. Then on the second hand, why we need to have the special legal frames for women entrepreneurs? Because we need to be aware that there are differences. So we are different in life. So there are certain differences need to be respected also as an enter in the business life. And these differences are only here to create the equal opportunities for enter into the business world for women and men entrepreneurs. And in project which we had in for 4 years, 9 countries together, so countries from Southeast Europe and Moldova joining us, we were very happy. Actually, for us, the women entrepreneurs was the economic issue. So how we can contribute to the legal frameworks and overall, let's just say, boosting the competitiveness of our SMEs, having in mind that in 9 countries, which were the subject of the project support or project activities, the situation in women entrepreneurs participation is, we will not say like as it is in the most developed countries. For EU, the target is more than 40%. So our countries had at that time participation between 8% and almost 30%. So the conditions were not here. The access to finance instruments were scattered or rare or ad hoc, and they were not system solutions. So the experts from the 9 countries, and it was great company, and we all enjoyed, great experts, great women entrepreneurs associations, and great enthusiasts. And we do not to forget that enthusiasts are those who are changing the world in better direction. We were covering several topics. So the first topic is how we can develop, related to the smart governance, smart policies to support women entrepreneurs. But also we were aware that having all the nice papers in our countries, we also need to do something more. So to develop the system of papers, nice papers implementation. So this was the second part of our attention. Then we were also focused on how we are creating the friendly environment, conducive environment with the offer of training for those who decided to enter into the world of business and entrepreneurship, so women in the world of entrepreneurship, and how we are good in promoting the good practices and networking. These were so-called policy indicators which become the integral part of the official global OECD SME Policy Index for measuring the country's development related to the SME policies. I can share that success was so great that OECD is now using these indicators developed in our countries all over. What we find out that is some developments are there, but there is still long road to go. The second part which we were focused on was also that we find out our mouths are full of women entrepreneurs need certain training. Yes, but it's nothing different than you have the opposite people who are saying they're nothing different of needs for training of the men entrepreneurs. This is true. But then there are certain things which are different. The way how women are networking. So we are good in social networking, but business networking is something which still need to be developed and proposed and supported. And implementing the training needs analysis for women entrepreneurs, we find out that there is a common pattern in 9 countries. So having in mind that these 9 countries, starting from Croatia, Albania, Montenegro, Kosovo, Serbia, Turkey, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Moldova, there are different levels of economic development. There are different sizes of the economies. There are even different sizes of the countries. There are even different participation of women entrepreneurs, but there are certain patterns of most needed areas for training. And we find out that the most needed areas for training for women entrepreneurs are customer centricity, financial literacy, and increasing competencies and leadership and motivation. Based on that, we said that we find out that there is also need for women entrepreneurs. When we talk about the methodology of training provision, the women entrepreneurs actually like or are more keen to have different kind of training provision. And actually the tools for self-learning or self-leading learning would be very welcome. And in what we enjoyed the most was also that we together, 9 countries, we developed the criteria. So our mouths worldwide are full of, oh, we need to learn from best practices. Wonderful. But what is the best practice from one person cannot be maybe seen as a best practice for another one. So we agreed together, 9 countries, different culture, religion, economic development, we agreed among the joint criteria how to choose the best practices. Your
Yeah,
businesses, yeah, sorry, you want to ask me something?
and I wanted to ask you a question. If
Sorry,
we
I
stop
took
a little
like
bit,
a monologue,
yeah,
yeah.
I know. Yes, I know. I was telling somebody that if you ask me anything about Gen Moldova and our activities, and I will talk endlessly because I am so dedicated and committed to doing what we are doing. And I was lucky to participate in that. And I would like to say a little bit about the process, because the process was very satisfactory. We've learned a lot as community supporters, at the same time as community builders, in the process of how we can co-work as countries with cultural differences, as you mentioned. And I would like to stop a little bit of the culture, because cultural support is really important. And how are women supported culturally in their communities with the different programs. And this program was also a lot about attitudes, about how to change the attitude towards women entrepreneurs, and how to develop criteria that will encompass the cultural support that they create for other women, and that other people can create for women entrepreneurs. And I'd like to focus a little bit on the criterias that we have developed, because I was also as
Yes.
participating in that as a community of builders, but also as entrepreneurs, because we need to make the emphasis, because it was on one side the community builders, those that support entrepreneurs, and on the other side were the women entrepreneurs, and we got together to facilitate that process. What were the criteria?
So it was like several set of criteria, and we are very happy that this criteria was proposed and agreed, again, as you said, for the variety of experts from 9 respective countries, but also policymakers. So the first criteria we said, it need to be business with at least 3 years of operation, because they have experience, and they have this experience can be shared. The second thing, we all want to promote the good practices which has so-called legal frame of operations, so that they do not have like unpaid duties among the government or someone else, because we need to be aware that also all of us, we need to put all of our efforts in creating the environments which are the corruption is not accepted and not existing. And also we wanted, when we enter in the sectors, first we wanted to have representatives from the micro areas, from the small business set and medium-sized businesses, because in majority of the countries what we find out that the women-owned businesses are in the group of micro and small businesses. The second thing, we wanted to see the areas which are not seen as particular women areas. So we wanted to see variety of different sectors, like even the digital industries or industries which are in technical engineering, which are not seen as a women entrepreneurs. But also we wanted to have the examples which were fulfilling the overall process with not just the learning experience of the business, but also to be integral part of the training models within these 3 respective needed areas of training. Yeah, so this was the what we applied. And last but not least, and for us very important point, that all of these examples are performing and they are leaders in socially responsible entrepreneurship, which is bringing the added value to our communities on the local, regional, national, and international level.
Yeah, I think one of the important aspects that you mentioned was that they participate back, they give back, because that's how we create mentors out of the women that were participating in the program, and that they learn to give back, and through their efforts they develop other entrepreneurs, and they support by giving back without asking anything in return. As you said, all of these practices led to led to a conversation that with other entities, international entities to OECD, and they're using the outcomes, which creates an impact at the international level. So where can we find that the papers and all the information, so those that are developing women programs, they can find a way to access governments, to access community programs for the women entrepreneurs?
So one of the sources of information is available on the OECD site. So SEECEL, of course, but then OECD site, they're publishing every 3 years a publication which is called SME Policy Index Assessment, which is available for pre-accession countries, for Southeast Europe, then Eastern partner countries related to the relation of the countries with the EU, and for the MEDA countries. So all of them has the same title with different geographical spreading, SME Policy Index. And the last one for Eastern Partnership, I think, is published 2015. Please don't take me for a word. And currently is ongoing. It will just start the next line of the assessment for the Eastern partner countries. Then the European Union published and developed the portal, which is called VGate. And VGate is a portal supported by the European Commission, DG GROW, which is the home of all policies related to women entrepreneurs. So there you can find a lot of information related to the business-to-business possible cooperation and finding the partners for business modalities, how to find the mentors which you can ask for the related problem you have, or how you can find the best practices, the good practices. And then UN Women is also one of the portals which is available, and you always can, especially these 9 countries, what we find out that is the heritage of the project we implemented, that the business associations are communicating, sharing the information, and also sharing the possibilities for business cooperation. On the case of Croatia, the women entrepreneurship is regulated by the separate strategy, is regulated by the law, and it's regulated by the special funds and access to finance, which is not the special fund for women entrepreneurs, but is integrated to all kinds of investments with a special, let's say that criteria, evaluation criteria, which are giving the women entrepreneurs certain advantage when they're competing to the funds. And of course, SEECEL is always the source of information, very welcome to all the countries to be used as a source of information. And the learning tool developed by SEECEL, please use that. It's developed for the public money and it's need to be for the public use. You're all very welcome to use that free of charge.
So as I understand, the government of Croatia has taken into account, let's say, the outcomes from this project, and they have developed this part of the strategy and this, can we say, a quota for women entrepreneurs, for funding and for other, for other tools?
Yeah, we can actually apply some kind of the quota, because it was not only the quota issue here. Here was the quota for the evaluation criteria for the access to finance, which we find out that is the most actually scarce source for women entrepreneurs. So that means that they were taking into account the problems of collateral, which is the usual problem all over the world. And the criteria when they're evaluating the applications for women entrepreneurs, they're giving the certain additional points to women entrepreneurs, so creating incentives in this respect.
As I understood, in some countries, like in different programs, if there is a competition or there is an incentive program for entrepreneurship development, they have developed a new, tool or a new incentive for women entrepreneurs, because if men can apply for a different program, up to the age of 35. Women are allowed to participate a little bit longer, up to the age of 40, because they're taking into consideration that women are usually spending 2 to 5 years for growing small children, and it's part of the incentive for women to get more funding, to get more access to different entrepreneurship programs.
Yes, you are very right. There are countries which have this kind of special programs. Decision of the government of the Republic of Croatia was to go in the line with the criteria. So the criteria which are in favor for women entrepreneurs, and which are also some kind of the special programs dedicated to starting up a business. And also what is regulated and supported within the strategy for women entrepreneurs in Croatia was also some kind of incentives which are non-financial one, because we need to be aware that maternity leave for women entrepreneurs, if it is regulated in general terms for women entrepreneurs, doesn't help. So they need to be certain other forms taking into account the maternity leave, the transfer of business in this kind of cases, or some kind of subsidies need to be taken into account. But you know, Olesea, we can talk about a lot of access to business, but you will find very limited number of the countries which will be able to say you immediate state of play related to the state statistics of women entrepreneurs participating in overall number of entrepreneurs. You know, sometimes when we were discussing that, we were like, oh, but this data need to be available. And then you are facing that even the state institutions are not ready to have disaggregated data for women-owned businesses. So, you know, even if this look like a small step in statistical offices or trade court to disaggregate this data by gender or by other demographics, actually it doesn't exist. So, for example, this was the good example in Macedonia, how they try to push this kind of solution. Croatian government is still, I will not say fighting, but discussing, having constructive discussion with the statistical offices. But at the end of the day, if we are serious with the evidence-based policy making and the smart governance and the long-term solutions related to the certain areas of our economies, we cannot do that with the relevant data. So there is other issues which need to be taken into account related to the women entrepreneurs.
So as I understand, there is so much work to get done in understanding better
Yes.
women entrepreneurship, and which is related to everything, collected data, making the surveys more actual, presenting more real data, and more so the policy can be made based on accurate evidence. At the same time, moving faster, that because everything is moving faster right now with the technology and everything. And then would be the second would be creating the support, the incentive programs that are going to really help women at the social level, at the educational level, with culturally giving the support needed, and economically, of course, and politically. We should not forget the political part, because we need to mention it. So it's going to encourage at the institutional level as well, but also making it more competitive, so women get into the areas that you mentioned that are not very reflective with regards to women entrepreneurship. And why not then we can connect all these programs at the regional level, at the international level, so we can learn from each other and we can change each other by manifesting this change and communicating better. And based on your experience, I know that you have won the Startup Nations Award, and I want to congratulate you on that. And could you tell us a little bit more about the Startup Nations Award, and what is it, and how was it to win this?
Thank you very much, Olesea, for your kind congratulations. And I would just want to add, related to women entrepreneurs, whatever you share now, I can just say I'm signing it, because this is the ethos, the core of the problem related to women entrepreneurs. Related to Startup Nation Award, I must say we were totally surprised because we are seeing ourselves as a small institution helping, supporting countries in what they are asked. And what they asked was the structured regional cooperation in the area of entrepreneurship education as a key competence. Started back in 2008, the countries of Southeast Europe, pre-accession countries who are preparing to enter the European Union. And the process, you know, is a challenging one, and there are certain chapters which need to be satisfied. And small and medium-sized enterprise development is within the chapter for accession, chapter 20. Countries said, we need to take strategic action in changing our attitude. And attitude cannot be changed from the day one to the day two. It's a long-term activity. It's need to start from the early age, from the day one of educational system. And it's also recommended and prescribed as one of priorities of Entrepreneurship Action Plan for Europe 2020, which is entrepreneurship as a key competence, influencing every citizen in creating what we are calling entrepreneurial societies. No matter of that, every citizen cannot start the business. But what we need, having in mind the uncertainty, we need citizens who are ready to deal with this uncertainty, who are ready and have eye open for opportunities, and who are even behaving entrepreneurially, even in the state service, because this is how they can support the businesses. So the country said, we do not have a problem in the area such cutting the red tape, in the area such custom regulation or financial literacy, access to finance. But where we have problems and limited capacities is how to change, to introduce the evolution of educational system to accept entrepreneurship as a key competence. So back in 2009, we started as enthusiasts, pioneers, countries cooperating together. And so what started in 2009, and we called it institutional baby, in 2016 was recognized as a EU best practice, as a world best practice. So we were totally surprised being the only one from Europe. And you know, actually it was very nice because when I was sharing that information with our board, all of them, all 8 countries, they informed me that they had celebration in their respective countries because they felt that they won the award.
And I did celebrate it on my behalf because I think I was part of this, just a small part of this, and I'm happy I could contribute it.
But everyone is counting, Olesea, as we all learned, everyone is counting in this story. And so it's very interesting because we open a lot of doors. We find out that entrepreneurship education, especially a region where we're operating, has a certain geocomplexity. 25 years ago, we are still having in our memory that there were not easy situation between our countries, that all of our countries, we passed through the transition, except Turkey, which is the leader in entrepreneurship activities and economic activities. So we find out that with entrepreneurship education, we are directly contributing to the competitiveness of our respective economies in the long run, that we are contributing in development of entrepreneurial ecosystems. And it's interesting, the term which our educational institution proposed, that schools and universities can act as entrepreneurial nests, so contributing to the change in overall ethos and understanding. And definitely this is the part of the public sector with a great influence, which need to be supported, how entrepreneurship as a key competence need to be integrated with a final goal to increase the entrepreneurial understanding, entrepreneurial culture, entrepreneurial attitude, and entrepreneurial literacy in all of our countries. What is also important that entrepreneurship education is based on UN General Assembly conclusions and decision back in end of 2015 in Addis Ababa, with defining the new sets of sustainable development goals for developing world 2030, introduced entrepreneurship education as one of the key sustainable goals, which is sustainable goal 4.4. The lesson learned in our countries that entrepreneurship education, entrepreneurial ethos is contributing to the peaceful reintegration also after the conflict. So there is great variety of entrepreneurship education, and we truly believe that it's contributing to the sustainable development of all of our countries, social responsibility, which we all witnessing that we needed more back, we needed more back in our societies, having in mind the general world trends.
Yeah. You mentioned something important, and I know that time is very, very important. But I think entrepreneurial ethics is very actual, and how we communicate about entrepreneurship comes, as you mentioned, from schools, from but also from media. So,
Yes.
as a part of your project, we had I wanted to mention, because it's very important. We had program where we communicated not only the success stories, because I would not only want to stress on the success stories, but also on the experience of those women entrepreneurs that grew in the process of developing their own businesses. We're stressing on the smaller tactics and strategies they use in these specific 3 topics that were covered. So I would encourage those that from media, that they go there and look, and they learn from the experience of other women that developed their businesses in these countries, because it was an amazing experience for me as well. If you were to tell a gal something small, like an advice, just a small advice to her, she wants to start a business and she doesn't know, should I start a business or should I not? What would be that small advice that you would give to her? Just a small girl. She's like 14 years old, 15 years old, or teenager. And she's like considering, should I start? I don't have the support. Nobody wants to help me. That's maybe the environment that she grows in. What advice would you give to her? What call to action?
Call for action for the state governments would be, entrepreneurs of tomorrow are in our schools today. We need to create a conducive environment, friendly environment for them. The second, real action, because it is the question for individuals. Find the souls or the people who already started, because they're very keen. They would like to share their advices, and they are here for that. If they feel that you have dedicated to your idea, all the doors are open and they will share the advices. The women entrepreneurs, the seniors, the juniors, in every country, there are the associations. Knock on their doors are open, and ask for the advice.
So they should be really proactive and find
Definitely.
their own answers.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you, Efka, for a very interesting discussion. And I think when we are going to draw the conclusion for this month discussions, I have so much insight from the information that you just provided, and so many resources that you mentioned, that I hope that people that are going to read our conclusions, that they will learn more and find more and go and access SEECEL and talk. But we know that soon you are going to come to Moldova, and we can continue this conversation in June, talking about women entrepreneurship. And I'm really hopeful that we are going to see you in Moldova very soon. Welcome.
Olesea, thank you very much for your invitation, but please allow me also to congratulate you personally and GEN Moldova for great development, what you're doing in Moldova, your enthusiasm, your professionalism, and for everything what you're doing, not just for Moldova, but also you're sharing that worldwide. So it was our pleasure, and it is my pleasure, and it will be my pleasure always to cooperate with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Efka.